Our steps can lead us to millions of doors opening, millions of paths unfolding, and millions of reasons to keep going. Now's the time to be with the network that gets better every day for you.
Malaki ang epekto sa amin ng pandemic. Bagsak ang negosyo namin pero sinagip kami ng online selling. Kung hindi siguro dahil sa Globe, wala kasi nagtry ako ng iba. Wala Very reliable ang network nila.
Because so much of our lives are online. If you get disconnected,
Ready for our recitation, kids?
do you even exist? Welcome to the Red Life. Introducing Red Fiber, 100% fiber internet. A life with reliable connection, with flexible plans for different lifestyles, no worries of getting cut off, and dependable customer service. So when it matters most, you're always ready.
Good job, Jacob.
Get ready for the Red Life. Red Fiber. Reliability redefined.
Sa aming mga nagla-livestream, mahalaga yung maayos na koneksyon. Nakakahiya pag naglalagang signal. Malaki na pinag-iba ngayon. Okay na yung 4G pero mas lalong gumanda ng 5G. Our livestream will not be possible kung hindi malakas ang signal ng Globe.
Yung alam ko na 15 to 20 Mbps na speed, nadoble na pala. Partida, 4G lang ang gamit ko nito. Ang laking bagay kasi pag yung video calling sa streaming hindi naglalag. Pati yung pag-feed namin sa base, sobrang smooth na din. Ever since I'm using Globe, kaya kitang-kita ko ang improvement na network.
Because so much of our lives are online. If you get disconnected,
Ready for our recitation, kids?
do you even exist? Welcome to the Red Life. Introducing Red Fiber, 100% fiber internet. A life with reliable connection, with flexible plans for different lifestyles, no worries of getting cut off, and dependable customer service. So when it matters most, you're always ready.
Good job, Jacob.
Get ready for the Red Life. Red Fiber. Reliability redefined.
Hello to everyone. Good morning. I'm Dr. Manny Batoon. I'll be your host and moderator in this webinar. Okay. I'm so privileged to lead you towards this webinar today. So to start off, we begin with the invocation to sanctify this webinar. We will, after that, we will sing our national anthem, and our prayer will be led by the UST Alumni Vice President, Madam INOCENCIA Ida TIONKO. Ma'am Ida?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And let us start this day and this session by putting ourselves in the presence of the Lord as we bless ourselves in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Gracious Lord, we thank you for this wonderful day that you have truly made for us. We thank you for each and everyone who is here today for this continuing webinar. Heavenly Father, as we start this day, we close our eyes so we can see you in our hearts, smiling at us, reminding us how much you love us. Bring us, Lord, into a felt awareness of your presence in this webinar. With the powerful light of your Holy Spirit, shine brightly on the minds of our speakers, that they may enlighten and guide us so we can fully understand and grasp the wisdom of this undertaking today. Make us pay attention closely to where you are drawing us, to reflect on what is currently happening in the world of work in our industries. Open our minds to see and understand in the way you would want us to the disruptions, disturbances, and disorders in the industry that impacts our educational system. Free from any judgments, may our hearts be ready to respond to you and your wisdom. Direct our thoughts, words, and plan of action toward the right path. May we walk according to your will and in solidarity as we forge a common innovative pathway in the forthcoming sessions towards bridging the academe and the industry gap. We believe in our hearts that you will continue to guide us to its completion and to the future plans you may still have for us. We thank you for your guiding presence and loving abundant provisions. Lord, let your will be done in this humble offering of the webinar we give you today. All this we ask through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Saint Thomas Aquinas, pray for us. Good morning.
Good morning.
There you go. There you go. Thank you very much, Ma'am Ida, for that heartfelt prayer. We now proceed to the expression of our appreciation of your presence in this webinar. So to especially express that appreciation, would like to call on the Dean of the UST Graduate School, Professor Dr. Michael Anthony C. Vasco.
Good morning and thank you very much, Professor Batoon. For the past 18 months, the world order has been changed dramatically and drastically by the COVID-19 pandemic. It has practically changed and altered our daily routines and work practices. The new normal has posed challenges to education, healthcare, commerce and trade, and the economy. And as we shift to Industry 4.0, in the midst of the pandemic, the challenges and issues have become more pronounced, doubly difficult to address. While the pandemic continued to wreak havoc in our healthcare system and the various social, political, and cultural domains, and it has also posed great impact to our educational and economic systems, we need to think to calibrate our strategies to address these challenges. In a recent article published by Bloomberg, as regards the scenario of the pandemic in the next 6 months and beyond, it was noted that the development and outcome of the pandemic depends much on the level of preparedness and continued sustainability of strategies and solutions to resolve and mitigate the impact of the pandemic. It highlighted strategies for the healthcare system to cope with the possible surges so that we can slowly open our economic system and gradually return to our normal work systems in the new normal. The strategies employed by the great economic states proved to be effective. It was achieved through a calibrated opening of their economic and educational systems vis-a-vis the effective calibration of strategies employed in their health systems. It is heartwarming to note that people from countries in Europe, North America, and East Asia are beginning to experience their usual work and daily routines in the new normal. People are slowly allowed to attend to their usual functions at work or at school and even attend religious and cultural gatherings. Notable of which was the great cultural gathering at the Metropolitan Opera House in New York to commemorate the 9/11 event, and even the return of Broadway performances to the greater public. More and more countries have allowed some of their students to return to their schools in calibrated manner. In other words, we can already see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are already going there. It is just a question of time when to reach that goal. With the united efforts of institutions of government and the private sector, I am very sure that we will soon join other countries to perform our usual normal routines in the various domains of work in the new normal. What is important at the moment is to strike a balance between the strategies and solutions we offer to address the problems and issues posed by the pandemic with its possible impact and outcomes. It is in this spirit that I welcome all of you in this morning's Multisectoral Summit for Educational Transformation, Webinar Part 2, titled Industry 4.0, Disruptions, Disturbances, and Disorders. Thank you and good morning.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for that warm welcome. Thank you. Now we proceed to the infographic overview of the summit and learn about what happened in the first webinar.
Welcome to the National Multisectoral Summit for Educational Transformation and Academe Alumni Industry Government Collaboration.
The main objective of this AAIG 2021 webinar series is to catalyze the transformation of the Philippine educational landscape towards Education 4.0 by enjoining the Academe, alumni, industry, and government sectors to come together in dialogue to adopt pioneering and collaborative practices in bringing the academe and industry gap and to continue to be an efficient and sustainable platform.
Heavenly Father, we praise and thank you for this gathering of the members of the Academe, alumni, industry, and the government in order to hold meaningful conversations that will benefit the alumni of the university and all other graduates, in whose hands the future of our country rests.
Addressing these learning gaps in higher levels of education or within the school-to-work transition will require additional resources that may not be available to all educational institutions or industries absorbing the products of our educational system unless adequate government support are made available to both public and private sectors.
You can now start thinking about how Industry 4.0 and the use of data in the internet is actually helping you to actually make better decisions, more reliable decisions, and at the same time, set a path for yourself. People need the ability to make sense of this information, to tell the difference between what is important, what is unimportant, and above all, combine many bits of information into a broad picture of the world. It is important that leadership skills of empathy, listening, finding your own purpose, communicating, and collaboration continue to be an important and fundamental part of the education system that we have, but also a very important part of the society that we continue to live in.
A shared value relationship between educational institution and companies, blueprinted probably by policymakers, can help facilitate workforce transitions. I think fundamental to this preparation is expanding and enhancing the digital infrastructure in the learning space, including those who are studying remotely, such as China, Malaysia, India, and Singapore, in a quest to build their economies focused on offering STEM programs in their institutions. And so we must identify and correct long-standing imbalances in the educational systems. I believe now more than ever, smart and strategic industry and academic partnerships must be more integrated and value-enhancing to both. We have to transform the campus as a hub not only for learning best practices, but the staging platform for next practices.
This call for educators to urgently adapt to the needs of our times and respond to multiple adaptive and transformative challenges necessary for the revitalization of the vital roles of government, academe, and industry to actively involve in the discussion and co-create systemic and long-term solutions. This is an assertion of the Commission that tertiary education must espouse the notions, procedures, and processes of 21st century learning. The education of the new millennium connotes revolutionized approaches to realize excellent teaching and learning that are at par with international standards. May these catalyze further partnerships of the government and non-government agencies with the Commission on Higher Education as we continue to heal and learn as one.
Regardless of what industry number that we will transition to in the future, all of these things that you have learned are actually very important and key to success of our country and to your own success. So please continue to leverage on these learnings. Please continue to reach out and continue to collaborate, not just with your students, but to the professors, to the teachers, to the industry that you want to belong with in the future.
We have to all work together and we have to open ourselves to whatever opportunities ang dumating sa atin. At pag dumating yung opportunity na yan, you just have to blossom where you are planted and you will be rewarded with so many things, sometimes unexpectedly.
This is my commitment and this is my obligation to all our students that I will continue initiating projects and initiatives for the TED to properly address the concerns of our students in this COVID-19 pandemic and even the post-COVID life or post-COVID scenario. No? Thank you.
Para mas simple lang, tingin ko may tatlong UST lang ang pwedeng mag-synthesize ng mga nangyari ngayong umagang to. U for me is understanding. Understanding is a generic term but it is quite a powerful term because it will allow us to know what is happening. Meron tayong nasyon na kailangan ng tao. I think it's a call for citizenship if you're going to ask me. The understanding should be transforming into some kind of a response. Kaya nga, paano naman tayo magre-respond? Yung pangalawa, skill. I think it's very important for us to gain skills and that the new educational era will be all about skills. More importantly, human skills, social skills, relationship. Partnership is important. That communication is important. Dapat magsama-sama tayo. Ang isang policies, standards, and guidelines ay hindi lang ginagawa ng mga nagtuturo, subalit nagpa-practice din ng profesyon. And T for me is technologies. Wherever you look at it, I think technologies is something that weaves into the presentation of today's webinar. Whatever industry it would be, I know that we will continuously struggle, but in that struggle, if we understand, if we have the skill and we make use of good technologies, I think we are prepared to face what the post-COVID era will be for us.
There you go. There you go. That's the infographic for the overview of the summit and the first webinar. Okay, Paul, what about this webinar 2? What do we have here? What's in store for us here? We have to think in this way. The webinar 2 is not just a logical consequence of webinar 1. Webinar 2 is a sequel in the story of the whole summit. O kaya po titingnan ninyo ngayon ang aming ibinibigay na perspektibo na bago. Alternatibo po itong pagtingin doon sa response of higher education to Industry 4.0. Doon po sa mga hindi nakakaalam, yung 4.0 po, yun yung sinasabing pang-apat na industrial revolution. Yun po ang tinutugunan ngayon natin. Now, pag sinabi po namin ng higher education dito, we think of it in inclusive terms. Hindi po yung eskwelahan lang. Kaya po makikita ninyo itong aming pangalan, AAIG. Academe, Alumni, Industry, and Government. Yan po ang ibig sabihin ng higher education. All of these sectors are responding to Industry 4.1. Ano pong ma-expect ninyo ngayon sa webinar 2 na to? We have speakers from both industry and government. Yan po ang pinaka-focus ngayon. And we are responding to a theme. Ano yung theme ngayon? Disruptions, disorders, and what's that again? Disturbances. Okay. So, yan pong tinutugunan. And the question is, what are the challenges that Industry 4.0 brings to higher education? Ayun po. Now, para po sa interest ninyo, kasama namin ito because we value your presence here. Oh, kung ang interest po ninyo ay ma-upscale, kung kayo ay nasa Academe, an administrator in Academe, or you are a student, so we have a speaker who will talk about how you can upscale and rescale your system in the context of 4.0 and COVID-19. Tapos meron tayong speaker din doon sa mga gustong mag-upskill at saka mag-reskill ng kanilang mga human resource. Yan po, meron din tayong speaker dyan. And then third po, kung ikaw ay alumni at gusto mong magkaroon ng ma-employ sa private industry, may speaker din po doon. And he will tell us about what are the characteristics of the human resource they want to accept or employ in their companies. Pangapat po, kung ikaw ay entrepreneur, meron ka rin makukuha dito kasi our Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry will speak about this entrepreneurship, the state of the industry of the nation. So ayan po yung pinaka-maaasahan nyo sa ating webinar ngayon. Right, so kung gusto natin ngayong maganda yung flow ng ating discussion, meron tayong konting house rules. Kung pwede po. Okay? So, each speaker, number one, each of the speakers will speak for 15 minutes only, please. Para po makuha lahat. Next, yung open forum po natin, 1 hour, more or less po. Tapos ngayon, your questions, you can type your questions in the Zoom chat room and our secretariat will take care of it. Okay? And then, we are requesting that you turn on your cameras during the open forum. Doon naman po, doon lang ang request namin sa may open forum because we will have a photo ops to memorialize our webinar too. Tapos, if you would like to have a recording of the whole webinar too, that will be made available to you through the UST AAI TAC YouTube channel. Ayan po. So, at this point, we start with our listening to our speakers. Okay, are you ready? Okay, I'm so excited to listen to the speeches of our invited guests. Okay. Now, as promised kanina, sinabi ko kanina, kung ikaw ay gusto mong ma-upskill or reskill yung iyong kakayanan as a human resource, meron tayong speaker who will talk about these things. Now, itong speaker natin ito, I think is the most qualified and politically correct speaker for us. She has the experience and the competence and the heart even to talk about these things. Okay, now, why is it so? Unang-una po, matagal siya sa tinatawag nating Technical Education and Skill Development Authority o TESDA. Alam niyo na po siguro yung TESDA. Ngayon, our speaker is a career officer at the TESDA and has risen through the ranks and earnestly honed her skills and talents in the field of community enterprise system and development training, technologies, organizational development, and systems thinking. Through the years, she has also observed and learned what's going on at TESDA as it is run by men. Now she is in the position to make her presence and contribution felt by instituting reforms at TESDA. Siya po ay isang a lady deputy director. So because of that, she will give us a perspective not only of the TESDA, but also of a woman's perspective of the TESDA. This makes our webinar gender sensitive. Now, to highlight her achievements, her most significant one, because she has a long resume, her most significant contribution by far is the establishment of TVET, or Technical Vocation Education and Training for Industrial 4.0. At ito po, this is both at the national level and at the ASEAN level. She reinforced TVET by strengthening the industry participation and partnership in TVET through the National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan 2018-2022. Her remarkable contributions for the growing global recognition of the TVET system in the Philippines have been greatly valued and continues to manifest in TESDA success. Kikita niyo po, ibang klase ang ating speaker ngayon. Kaya, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand to the Deputy Director General for Policies and Planning at the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority in the Philippines, ROSANNA A. URDANETA.
Thank you, Prof. Maraming salamat po sa napakagandang pagpapakilala sa akin. First and foremost, I would like to extend my thanks to the organizers, especially the UST Alumni Association Incorporated, the UST Graduate School Center for Continuing Professional Education and Development for this invitation to this webinar. I am really very glad to be with you today, my fellow alumni, in this gathering. Taga-UST po ako graduate ako na UST. Hindi ko na po sasabihin kung kailan taon. It is not very often that I get to be with my fellow alumni and to be in my beloved alma mater, the institution that has molded me and honed me to what I am today. Virtually this time, although. To the Dean of the UST Graduate School, Professor Michael Anthony VASCO, fellow panelists, Secretary Mon Lopez, our boss in TESDA, USEC TONISITO M.C, Dr. Bert Phoenix, a champion and advocate of Tibet, also our moderator, Professor Emmanuel Batoon, fellow UST alumni, colleagues, and friends who are present in this webinar. A very good and pleasant day to all. Let me start my presentation by giving a short context. Although most of us already know about this, there are several trends that are affecting the world of work, and this includes technology advancement. Kami sa TESDA, we have this particular challenge that if we come up with the training regulation standards, competency standards, by the time po na matapos namin yung isang training regulations, obsolete na yung technology. That's the basic challenge talaga na meet namin when we're doing training regulations in TESDA. The shifting paradigm of jobs and tasks, demographics, climate change, and impact of COVID-19. Let me focus on the COVID-19 pandemic. We will agree that it has indeed changed the way we do things, such as in education, work, and entertainment. 2 years ago, we never imagined that the use of online and virtual platforms for conferences would be very efficient and effective. Noon nga po parang ano pa ako I don't usually do this. I want to travel. So as much as possible, we travel a lot in TESDA for us to be able to really have meetings even outside of the country or outside ng Metro Manila. Kasi tuwan-tuwa po tayo mag-travel, mas madali na lang pala ngayon na makipag-webinar ka through this particular medium. Like this webinar that we are having now, we have gotten used to this type or setup already. The COVID-19 has in fact focused us to really embracing the fourth industrial revolution. It has forced to adapt us to the fourth industrial revolution. We see that COVID-19 demonstrated the importance of digital readiness among us, especially our learners and workers. And technical vocational education and training plays a pivotal role in helping industries and workers stay competitive in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Sabi po nila yung VUCA world. Since this is my first time to speak in the UST with many educators and professors in the audience, I would like to take this opportunity to advocate the Philippine Qualifications Framework, which was institutionalized through Republic Act 10968 in 2017. The Philippine Qualifications Framework is a national policy that describes the levels of educational qualifications and sets the standards for qualification outcomes. It is a quality-assured national system for the development, recognition, and award of qualification based on standards of knowledge, skills, and values acquired in different ways and methods by learners and workers in the country. We had this evaluated, the PQF, by the World Bank. And one of those na talaga pong very, very, siguro, shall we say, lumabas talaga na issue and challenge is how we will be able to popularize the Philippine Qualifications Framework. How will one and one really appreciate this particular framework? And what is in it for government, academic, industry, if we have a Philippine Qualifications Framework? We should all note that the implementation of the PQF should be supported by other policies and laws related to education and labor. Foremost of this is the Ladderization Act. So hindi lang po PQF ang titingnan natin, kung hindi, we have also the Ladderization Act because it would be the one that will establish credits and pathways within the PQF in the context of lifelong learning, which will provide or weave the whole education and training system continuum. Siguro po ang isa sa pinakapangarap ko is that UST would also have a ladderized program na TVET also towards higher education. We will observe in most cases that TVET is not considered as part of the education sector because of its straddling role both in education and labor. But with the PQF, which is the main objective of supporting academic and worker mobility, TVET is very well situated. As defined by UNESCO and ILO, TVET refers to aspects of the educational process involving, in addition to general education, the study of technologies and related sciences, and the acquisition of practical skills, attitudes, understanding, and knowledge relating to occupants in various sectors of economic and social life. The knowledge, skills, attitude, and degrees of competence for TVET are defined in levels 1 to 5 of the PQF descriptor. Let me now proceed to TSDA's national policies and initiatives to respond to Industry 4.0 and other technological and global disruptions. As the TVET authority in the country, TSDA ensures that the TVET sector responds to the requirements of the industry and the world of work. Grabe po yun ang engagement namin sa TSDA when we come up with training regulations, even to the point muna po ng planning and prioritization of what particular qualifications will be our priority. The industry is with us already. So Especially pag po mga development na of training regulations, even development of training packages, the industry is with us. Especially because we realize that in these disruptions we are facing, and because of Industry 4.0 and the pandemic, we really need the industry. This we could only do with the support of all our stakeholders in education. Of course, the government, industry, the labor sector, and the academe, and that includes higher education institutions such as the University of Santo Tomas. As the TVET authority, we laid down a national policy in which all the TVET programs and initiatives are anchored. Parati pong napapagkamalan ang TESDA na training center lang, pero authority po kami. And being an authority, we are, in the law of TESDA, we are really the one who comes up with the National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan. This has been the blueprint for the TVET sector in the Philippines, for the perusal of not just TESDA, but all of our stakeholders, including other government agencies, industries, employers, as well as you po. The NTSDP has a goal of vibrant, quality TVET for decent work and sustainable, inclusive growth through its two-pronged strategic direction. TVET for global competitiveness and workforce readiness, and TVET for social equity and poverty reduction. Likewise, we have developed the TVET 4.0 framework, which is anchored on the NTSDP, in ensuring that we prepare the workforce for the fourth industrial revolution. We said that in order for us to have an equipped learner, our equipped learner must have STEM-related skills, essential skills, emotional skills. So with TVET being part of the education system, our focus is, of course, the learner. The Future of Jobs Report 2018 by the World Economic Forum mentioned that executives prefer employees with critical thinking and collaboration skills, even now more than with technical skills. This framework basically shows the different actions we can take at various levels to maximize the opportunities brought by the fourth IR. It contains specific measures to ensure the right competencies are imparted to both learners and, of course, those that will take on the learning process, which are the trainers and institutions. All of these initiatives serve as a guide for both public and private TVET providers alike to ensure they produce fourth IR ready learners, trainers, assessors, and ensure that their TVET institutions and programs are at par with the fourth industrial revolution standards. Let me also share our priority initiatives, which I would also like for higher education institutions and all our stakeholders to take a closer look and, of course, to give your support. First, TESDA has recently approved its policy on area-based and demand-driven TVET, which would make sure that TVET programs are responsive to the critical needs defined by the industries and employers in order to produce rightfully skilled workers in a specific area or locality. This is also to align our growing skill supply with the shifting skills demand. Parati pong sinasabi kasi noon na may mismatch. So we're now trying to really provide a venue or a platform in which we would really want our stakeholders to listen to our stakeholders and tell us what are the skills, the knowledge, and the attitudes that we should be or must be providing and integrating in all our training regulations. The flexible learning delivery. We also have our flexible modes of learning delivery, wherein the implementing guidelines issued by TESDA allows TVET schools to utilize any of the following training delivery modes: distance learning, face-to-face, online learning, and blended learning. Choosing a particular training delivery will depend on the capacity of the school and the capability of trainers, and also takes into consideration the learner's access to resources and technology. TESDA online program. The next initiative, the TESDA online program, or TOP, has been our lifeblood during the height of the community quarantine imposed in the country last year. Sabi ko nga po, together with Netflix, kami po yung pinaka-top grosser noong quarantine period. When schools were closed nationwide, we had to find a way to continue delivering our quality to vet programs to all Filipinos. That is why we made concerted efforts to quickly strengthen the capacity of the TESDA online program to be able to cater to more Filipinos nationwide and the overseas Filipino workers to offer more relevant TVET courses. The TOP currently offers 101 free online courses across a variety of sectors, and some in partnership with other institutions. The TOP has been online since 2012, but its user base doubled since March 2020, when community quarantines first went into effect in the country. That is 2.8 million users since 2012, with half or 1.4 million new users during this COVID-19 period. To further enhance the TOP, we are also looking to integrate its program offerings in the course offerings of our TESDA-run schools. We will convert it as a learning management system, and we shall also be coming up with regional learning management system for the utilization of our TESDA schools and TESDA training centers. We are now also in the process of finalizing our guidelines in recognizing an individual's learning acquired through non-formal or informal means. This is especially important as we understand that there are individuals who are experts in their respective fields and are up to par or even beyond the standards set by the training regulations promulgated by TESDA. Through the recognition of prior learning, we hope to give proper and official recognition to these individuals in order to boost their employment prospects. We have also recently issued the guidelines on micro-credentialing. Micro-credentialing offers a new way of certifying a portfolio of skills, recognizing small and discrete learning, as well as credentialing existing knowledge and skills that are transferable across jobs in order to navigate the future of work. It is essentially small credentials which recognize the achievement of a skill sets or knowledge that is required by industry, professional associations, or the community. They are also referred to as bite-sized programs, nano degrees, badges, or stackable micro degrees. A micro-credential certificate can be gained through institutional assessment, RPL, or recognition of prior learning, or recognition of current competency. Micro-credential courses are also easier and faster to develop, allowing faster response to the changing demands of the workplace and complements the area-based demand-driven strategy in TVET. Likewise, we have also started our work on the development of a skills passport system, which will further improve in which our learners and the Filipinos in general can avail of TESDA scholarship programs, and at the same time, encourage them to continuously undertake additional learning activities in the context of lifelong learning. We also have our TVET Innovation Conceptual Framework, which is our blueprint for modernizing and upgrading our TVET institutions nationwide. Basically, it will annex a regional TVET Innovation Center in our TESDA-run schools, and will have the components on an authentic learning environment, experience for learners, research and development, and entrepreneurship components incorporated in TVET offerings, higher level TVET programs, including new and emerging technologies, and of course, establishment of close partnership with the industry for the industry practitioners to become mentors in the authentic work environment or the innovation center. Development of higher level qualifications. Lastly, we have issued our guidelines, of course, on the pilot implementation and development of the alignment of PQF level 4 and PQF levels 4 and 5. We have already our diploma courses running, and now we are trying to deal with the Dublin and Sydney Accord accreditation process. The development of higher TVET qualifications would mean we are able to develop technologists. The main objective of this is to support the government and the private sector in enhancing the Philippines' global competitiveness through the development of highly competitive and innovative Filipino workforce. With this, again, may I encourage my fellow alumni in the UST and to all our colleagues from the Academe to advocate and look into pursuing and offering TVET qualifications in your institutions, especially in your engineering programs and architecture. We need the practical side of TVET in order to produce well-rounded engineering professionals. Now that we are at the tail end of the fourth cycle of the National TSD Plan, and we are now moving forward to the fifth cycle of the groundworks for the preparation and development of the National TSD Plan, we will again give us guidance, which will again give us guidance for the medium term. In order for our workers, enterprises, and by extension, our economy to be resilient to the future shocks of the fourth IR, and nandito na din po yung fifth IR. In fact, the Japan government is already looking into this, and other potential disruptions. We shall be focusing on the following things or priorities for the next cycle of the NTSDP. Of course, we have to come up with a new mindset, adapting critical thinking and innovativeness to adapt to the new normal and the fifth industrial revolution. We have always been telling ourselves, okay, face to face, but kailangan siguro po palitan na natin yung mindset natin na yung face to face is just one among those delivery mechanisms that we shall be using in the fourth IR and the fifth IR, because we should strengthen our digital capacity, especially dun sa mga trainers po natin and instructors. Capacity in developing and delivering flexible training. We have to develop more blended modules as well as expand our TESDA online program. We have to reskill and upskill existing workers and new entrants to the world of work for them to be able to bounce back. This is also our contribution to the MSMEs and of course to the national strategy for employment strategy, revitalization of employment. Restyle TVET. As the world of work is drastically changing, shifting to remote or hybrid forms of work, so does TVET need to be transformed as well. TVET delivery should focus on industry and Academe partnership and collaboration. Again, thank you all. I think I'm already on my 15 minutes timeline. Thank you very much for this invitation. Keep safe and God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director URDANETA. Thank you.
Thank you po.
Tomasino ka pala. Ano, Deputy Director, Tomasino ka na. We're proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof.
Ito po yung what I learned, what we learned from your speech, your sharing is, of course, you are an authority. Hindi ka lang skills training and TESDA. Okay na po yun. Alam na, nakuha na namin yun. Para hindi otoridad kayo. Pangalawa, you have a Philippine Qualifications Framework. Ganda. Pagkatapos ibinaba ninyo, meron kayong ladderized program para pumunta doon sa TVET. Well, and then you're encouraging UST to adopt this, and especially the engineering and architecture program. Kaya alam mo, Deputy Director, meron nang nag-iisip diyan. Actually, narinig ko kanina. Meron na po. Mag-respond na po ang UST.
Wow! Thank you po.
Opo. Oh, thank you very much po. Again, Deputy Director. Okay, we proceed to the next speaker. Wow. Kanina, di ba sabi ko sa inyo, kung gusto mo, kung ikaw ay alumni and you would like to excuse me. Are we okay with this, or is it Esquire UMALI now? May I ask?
Handa na. Dito na po ako, Prof. Hello po.
Yes. Yes po. Yeah. O kanina meron tayo punta sa TESDA. Ngayon, dito naman tayo sa DepEd. Kaya if you're an administrator, you're a student, ito po, meron pong maraming i-share si Esquire UMALI. So let's read something about, let me introduce him to you. Get to know him better. He'll be talking about the upscaling, something like the upscaling and rescaling of our educational system for us to survive and prevail over Industry 4.0. Now, we cannot think of any other better and more qualified government officer to talk about this rather than our speaker. Sino ba siya? See, our speaker practically prepared all his life for the job he holds in the present. He took up law and gained his Juris Doctor degree from the Arneo de Manila University. And he even underwent and passed the bar exams. You know where? In the state of California, and acquired a license to practice law in the state of California, as well as the United States Federal District Courts of Central, Eastern, and Southern California. Because of this, he is addressed as Esquire. Yun po yung kanyang titulo, talaga naman proper para sa kanya. And after that, he engaged in the practice of law. He joined a law firm and eventually put up his own firm together with his father, Antonio. Right? But then he felt something parang kulang, sabi niya. Though he had derived much pleasure from the practice of law, parang kulang. So he thought that after much discernment, he realized that he needed to use all of his legal knowledge and training in public service. And he felt that the best venue in doing this is in the Department of Education. Bakit? Kasi doon magkakaroon siya ng influensya sa mga kabataan. At ano ang kabataan? Nasabi na sa atin, ang pag-asa sa kinabukasan. Kaya po, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to the Department of Education Undersecretary for Legislative Liaison Office, External Partnership Service, and Management Service, TONISITO MC UMALI Esquire.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat at salamat po Professor Emmanuel Batoon for that very kind, very nice words you used to introduce me po. Can I request po our staff if we could flash our slides please? Yung topic ko po, Professor, parang on challenges, but I'll contextualize it based on what you said na lamang. At alam po nating lahat na pag sinabi pong Department of Education, ang ating pong tinututukan rito ay basic education from kinder to senior high school, grade 12. At kapag higher education, it should be Commission on Higher Education. I'll exert effort po to contextualize what I will be showing to you and try to relate it to our higher education institutions in relation to the problems, challenges, same issues and concerns, I would say, that we are also confronted with in basic education. So we all start with, this is the mandate given or Article 2, Section 17. So let's start with the legal basis. Why it is very important that we are all here right now talking about the challenges of education in light of the pandemic and how we will respond to these challenges and relate this to the mandate given to us by the Constitution. Sa ilalim po ng Saligang Batas, Article 2, Section 17, wala na hong dapat debate, pag-uusap dahil sinabi na po na ang edukasyon, agham, teknolohiya, sining, kultura, pati ang palakasan at pareho po ang DepEd at CHED, ang higher education institution, may kinalaman po rito ay dapat pong bigyan ng prioridad ng Estado to foster patriotism, nationalism, accelerate social progress, and promote total human liberation and development. Pag dinala niyo po rin ito, ang ating saligang batas ay isa po sa saligang batas sa buong mundo na meron pong ganitong uri ng probisyon. Ito pong probisyon na ito, Article 14, Section 1, wala po yan sa 1973 and 1935 Philippine Constitutions. Wala po yan. Yung 1987 Constitution po nan, authored by Father Bernas during the Constitutional Commission deliberations of 1986, inilagay po ito. At tinanong si Father Bernas, bakit kailangan ba ito? Kailangan mailagay ito sa saligang batas para maalala ng Estado, ng pamahalaan, ng CHED, ng TSDA, ng DepEd ang kanilang mandato patungkol sa pagsulong at pagprotekta sa karapatan ng lahat ng mamamayan sa isang dekalidad na edukasyon sa lahat ng antas mula kinder, elementary, high school, college, at kung magpupunta po ng tech voc level. And we should also take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. So, tingnan ko nga yung next slide po natin. Ano po ba itong next slide na ito? Sa bahagi po ng DepEd, sa basic education, ito po ang aming mission. At nais ko lang pong diinan kung bakit po mahalaga itong forum na ito. At I'm sure CHED and TSDA also has that framework in actively engaging the family, our community, and other stakeholders. I'm looking at the bottom portion of this slide in making sure that when we do our mandate to make sure that there's lifelong learning, kailangan maunawaan po ng buong komunidad, ng buong bansa na ito po hindi lamang aming mandato, trabaho sa DepEd at pati na rin sa CHED at TSDA. I'm sure there are laws out there telling our partner CHED and TSDA that we have to engage partners and make them realize that this is not the responsibility alone of DepEd, CHED, and TSDA, but a collective responsibility. And that's why we really appreciate, for example, what our Alumni Association in UST is doing right now, engaging in a forum like this, inviting resource speakers, talking about challenges, talking about issues, possible solutions. At dahil po dito, nakikita po natin na yung konsepto na ang pagsisiguro na madisiplina at mahubog ang isipan ng mga bata ay talaga namang kolektibong responsibilidad po nating lahat. Next slide please. In DepEd, meron po kaming pinatupad na Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan. I'm sure in UST and in all other HEIs, bumuo rin po kayo ng plano paano po ninyo masisiguro na magpatuloy ang edukasyon maski ganito po ang ating sitwasyon. Sa basic education, talagang bawal po ang face-to-face. Sa HEIs po natin, meron pong mga tulad po ng TESDA. I have seen the regulations of TESDA. Hello po, DDG. Kamusta po kayo? Dahil tumitingin din po kami sa regulation ng TESDA with respect to our TechVoc track and how we implement TechVoc Senior High School. At ang isa pong rule ng TESDA na sinusunod po namin ay may component po sigurado itong TechVoc track po natin by its very nature na dapat talaga face-to-face. You cannot, for example, you talk about welding. Unless may welding equipment na pwedeng dalhin sa bahay ng ating mag-aaral, ay hindi po talaga uubra na face-to-face po lamang ito. Kailangan may halong face-to-face po ito para may actual sila pa magkukumpuni ng mga sasakyan, mga ilang halimbawa po lamang yan na talagang kailangan may component na face-to-face pag TechVoc talaga by the very nature of the course. At ganun din po sa HEI. And what we're just trying to say is, kailang may age requirement pa rin po ito eh. Sa TESDA, they made it 21 years old eh, bago po yung face-to-face. So we follow that. So if we have basic education, senior high school learners na papasa po sa ganitong edad, meron po kaming ganung mga patakaran din sa DepEd. Ang sinasabi ko lamang po ay ang DepEd ay may klaro pong plano katulad po ng UST, katulad po ng TED at TESDA para po magpatuloy ang pag-aaral. At kung paano po may sasagawa ito, limited face-to-face kaso po ninyo dahil off age na po yung mga estudyante po natin. Pero ako po, ang anak ko po, Professor Batoon, naglolo po ngayon sa UST. And it's really a privilege. My son was very happy when he learned that I was invited, and I told him, siguro anak, alam na nandiyan ka kaya ako naimbitahan. Siguro alam din nila na ang aking ama ay isa rin pong alumnus ng UST. Ang aking pong, marami po kaming mga pinsang buo, fiscal na po ngayon, UST College. Ang anak ko po nag-legal manage din po sa UST. And I'm really proud and I'm very happy that my son has enrolled in this very prestigious and reputable institution, University of Santo Tomas. At nakita ko po kung paano po ninyo hinubog ang aking anak. At nakikita ko po, my point, Professor Batoon, maski po kolehiyo, yung aking anak po nun, online po sila eh. Online learning, wala pong face-to-face. Kaya po itong aking ipinapakita po sa inyo ngayon, next slide please, lalo na po ngayon sa law school, ay pwede rin pong applicable rin po itong mga experience po namin dito with respect to online learning. But the principles of BELCP, which is anchored on yung healthy and safety and well-being of our people and personnel. Yung mga teachers po namin, yan po personal na pumapasok sa ating mga paaralan para po maggawa ng mga learning packets. Yan po nangyayari sa ating paaralan, yung mga printed modules, activity sheets po, ilalagay sa envelope or maliit na bag, kukunin ng mga magulang linggo-linggo, ibabalik pagkatapos ng linggo o sa susunod na linggo para kunin naman yung kanilang modules sa susunod na linggo. At yan po yung isa sa hamon po sa amin sa DepEd. Bagamat ang TED siguro ay wala pong ganyang modality na nangyayari, yung amin po namang online-based learning. Kitang-kita ko po, dahil itong unang araw ng pasukan po ng DepEd, September 13, umikot po tayo. Doon po ako sa division office, doon po ako sa lugar kung saan online class yung aming guro. I'm sure ganun din ang hamon ng mga professor po natin sa tertiary level. Medyo mabigat po talaga kasi pag tinatawag po ng teacher yung isang bata, nakikita ko minsan hindi maganda po yung internet connectivity. At dahil po doon, hindi nakakasunod minsan yung bata pag tinanong dahil hindi niya narinig siguro yung guro. Yun talaga ang mabigat. At marami pong inherent limitations, of course, when you do online learning. You could see are easily addressed when there's face-to-face, lalo na po sa amin sa basic education. Makikita mo ang mukha po ng bata, kung medyo hindi nauunawaan, makikita po ninyo kung nakikinig o hindi. Sa amin naman po ay medyo hindi naman namin po pinipilit ang bata. Hindi ko po alam sa UST, ma'am sir, kung ayaw pong magbukas ng video, basta magpaliwanag lamang kung bakit hindi, pero pwede po namin ipakiusap. Buksan nyo mga anak ang screen nyo kasi kailangan makita kung nakikinig baka hindi naman nakikinig. Pero pag nagsabi na may issues, maunawain naman po ang DepEd at dapat ganon. So we allow them. So pag hindi na muna nakikita, you don't even know if they're listening or not. So these are the challenges, simple as it may appear, but they are very crucial to learning. Kung hindi mo makikinig ang bata, hindi maganda ang connectivity, lalong-lalo na po sa basic education, talaga pong may epekto po ito. Kaya po yung bahagi ng printed learning modules na amin pong dinideliver, na kanila pong sinasagutan at binabalik po sa amin, mano-mano, kung wala man silang internet connectivity na ma-upload po ito, malaking bahagi po iyon ng ating basic education learning continuity plan sa basic education po. Next slide nga po, tingnan natin yung next slide. Papaspasan ko na po ng ito pong ating presentation dahil parang 15 minuto lang naman po tayo. So what we did po, we would like to share. I don't know how UST did this, knowing that with the limited capability of our learners to read the modules, wala nga pong teacher to access online learning or even asynchronous, magkuha ng ibang adaling iba, wala naman pong gadget. At kung may gadget, wala namang connectivity. At kung may connectivity, may issue sa pambayad ng pang-load. Nakita po namin yan, we streamlined yung tinatawag po naming most essential learning competencies. Ito po, alam na alam po nating lahat ito, ma'am, sir, ano po ba yung competency? Ano po ba yung kaalaman na gusto nating maunawaan ng bata? I'm sure sa kolehiyo, ganyan din po yan. Pagkatapos ng isang learning session, dapat meron siya. So pinili po namin ito, yung dating 2 pinagsama at yung dating humigit kumulang na 15,000 most essential learning competencies po natin sa basic education, bumaba po ito sa humigit kumulang na 5,000. Pero huwag po tayong mag-alala, hindi ibig sabihin po nito ay talagang wala nang matututunan yung mga bata. Ngunit ang binabanggit lang po namin ay hindi na po ito dati na kung ano po yung tinuturo natin ng face-to-face, kumpleto, ano yung lahat na gusto natin maunawaan, tinanggap na po namin yon. Hindi natin kakayanin ito at tinukoy na lang natin yung pwede pa given all the challenges and limitations that we have. We prepared our teachers in the same way that I'm sure UST and higher education institutions prepared theirs because we never did this naman before online. Bagamat that's a learning modality, pwede naman, hindi naman natin talaga ito ginagamit. Ang mga professor natin ay face-to-face. So we did training for our teachers how to maximize the various learning management systems, how to upload their lessons, how to grade, do their lesson plans. Ganun po, lahat po yan ay amin pong ginawa, bahagi ng kabuuang plano. At yung health standards in schools and workplaces, we made sure that we are compliant with IATF. I'm looking at item 4. Meron po kami tinatawag na Brigada Eskwela, Oplan Balik Eskwela, partnership activities na nung araw talaga pong face-to-face ang aktibidad na ito. Nag-focus po kami ngayon in engaging partners. For example po, Ma'am Sir, siguro ang UST hindi na po kailangan dahil marami po silang profesional na kaya pong magbigay ng psychosocial intervention sa kanilang mga estudyante. Kami po sa basic education, sa mga pampublikong paaralan, marami po tayong items for guidance counselors, pero hindi po ito napupuno. Kulang po ng supply. Lahat po ng aming humigit kumulang na 47,000 public schools, hindi po lahat yan ay may guidance counselors. Maliit na bahagi lamang po niya ng mayroon dahil pag titingnan niyo po yung kabuang populasyon ng registered guidance counselors ay talaga naman pong kaunti at medyo maliit pa ata yung sweldo sa amin kaya hindi po nila kinukuha. Ngunit ang ginawa po namin dyan, ang punto ko po ay meron po tayong framework on partnership. We partner with Psychological Association of the Philippines, with DSWD, with other private companies. Sila po ang nagsasagawa ng ating mga psychosocial debriefing activities. Marami po kami ngayong videos na naka-upload sa aming pong management learning portal na pwede pong i-access ng mga teachers. At kapag kailangan po ng some form of one-on-one counseling at walang RGC, Registered Guidance Counselor, ang amin pong paaralan, meron po kaming mekanismo para magkaroon. Ang punto ko po, ito po yung nangyayari, how we equip our parents in partnership with the Homeschoolers Association of the Philippines. Kasi ngayon, ang magulang po, lalo na sa basic education, kailangan tinututukan. Hindi naman kinakailangan malaman nila yung asignatura o hindi yung kanilang skills na mag-monitor ng bata. Meron po kaming mga learning sessions po dyan para sa mga parents. Hindi lang po kami ang kumikilos dyan, pati po ang private sector partners. When we talk about gadgets, we don't have enough budget to give gadgets to all of our 900,000 public school teachers, but we're trying. Napakalaki po ng budget na kakailanganin po niyan. Inuunti-unti po namin. We have 22.5 million more or less public school learners. When you talk about quality education, the way I said it in Article 14, Section 1, necessarily in this kind of situation, dapat may gadget ang mga bata. Hindi rin namin yan. We do this in partnership with the local government units. That's what we're trying. And to say under item 5, partner, local government unit partners allocate funds to purchase tablets, smartphones, and they give this to our children. Katulong po sila. We have engaged the IBPAP, an association of mga ano po ito mga businesses sa export processing zones. Yung kanila pong 3 to 5-year-old laptops, gadgets na pwede pa rin pong gamitin. Nakita ko po, maayos na maayos po. Dinodonate po nila ng diretso sa ating mga paaralan. Yun po ang ating punto. Yan po ang isang hamon ngayong panahon na ito na sinasabi po natin ay atin pong nahaharap sa tulong po ng ating mga partners. So let me go over na lang the slides. I know there's no time na, Professor Batoon po. So we do this aside from online learning, we also have TV and radio-based instruction. We have DepEd TV sa Channel 13 po. Maganda po ang lessons po namin. I'm sure UST doing also synchronous and asynchronous mode of learning. I'm sure you are also requiring students to, as I see my son when he was in college, ngayon po pumasok pa lang po siya ng first year law school sa UST nga rin po, law school. I'm really very happy. And it's really a privilege po, Professor Emmanuel, na makasama ko po kayo. Para na rin po akong at home sa UST po sa totoo po lamang dahil sa dami po ng aking, lalo na po yung aking anak, pinsan, ang aking ama na naging nag-aral po rito. Ako po yung saludo. Professor, kung may pagkakataon nga, it will be an honor to teach in your prestigious school. Siguro ako po yung magtatanong kung pwede pong magturo sa inyo to be really part of UST. Next slide, please. Meron po kaming regional contextualized learning continuity plan. Kino-contextualize po yan. Sa central office, meron po kami. We contextualize that sa region dahil iba-iba po ang sitwasyon sa baba. At pati sa division, ang division po namin is province or city-wide. Katumbas po yan ng parang provincial local government unit or city local government unit. Yan po yung aming governance structure. So, kino-contextualize po itong planong ito. Next slide, please. Meron din po kami, nako ito, ma'am, sir, and I would like to learn from UST too. How do we assess our learners, whether they are really learning what they need to learn, given all these challenges? May guidelines po kami kung paano po i-assess. Binigyan natin ng gabay ang ating mga guro at tayo po'y nakikipag-ugnayan sa mga magulang para malaman po talaga kung talagang nakukuha ng mga bata ang kanilang dapat pong matutunan. We want to learn from our UST partner, maybe how you are assessing your learners too. Next slide, please. Meron po kaming preparasyon for face-to-face, so magpa-pilot testing muna po kami ng plano na ito, pero kailangan po ng approval ng Malacanang. Pero meron po kaming ginagawang ganito po. Next slide, please. Teachers being considered as frontliners, we have a special campaign para po makumbinsi at kami po'y natutuwa. Ang aming mga guro, malaking porsyento po ay nagpapabakuna at nakipag-ugnayan po kami sa DOH para po magkaroon ng available na vaccine sa aming mga teachers who should all be considered frontliners. So we have a program on that. Next slide, please. Ito po, school year po namin nagsimula ng September 13. Alam ko po sa higher education, mas nauna na po kayo, lalo na kung TRISEN kayo. Next slide, please. And we would like to share that yung aming pong enrollment, yung next slide nga, ay nasa 27.5 na po sa kabuuan. At sa pampublikong paaralan ay nalampasan na po namin yung numero. Pag nakita po ninyo, 105%. Bagamat sa private schools po, yun po yung aming nakikita, ay medyo bumaba ang bilang po, pero sa kabuuan, lumipat sa pampublikong paaralan. I don't know if this is the same trend in higher education, if they are enrolling in state colleges and universities, but in basic education, medyo ganun po ang nangyayari at naunawaan natin ito dahil nga po sa challenges po siguro na kumita ng magulang at magbayad ng matrikula. Ngunit gusto ko pong sabihin na sa basic education, meron po tayong GASPE. We have support for teachers in private education, 18,000 pesos a year. Meron po tayong support, grade 7 to 10, 13,000 pag qualified sa NCR per student. I hope UST High School is receiving its share. 22,500 sa senior high school pag NCR. 11,000 junior high school. Pag highly urbanized cities, 20,000 pag senior high school voucher. May mga ano po yan eh. Qualification, 80% of the amount rather that I mentioned kung galing din sa private school, lumipat uli ng private school, junior high to senior high. Kung public school, lumipat po ng private senior high school, mas malaki po yung kanilang makukuha. Ang punto ko po ay mayroon pong ganung programa ang pamahalaan dahil tinitingnan po namin kayo, UST, bilang partner, high school, lalo na po at senior high school po ninyo, At pag sinabi po kasing sistema ng edukasyon, kasama po dyan ang tertiary level, we are not only talking about the public system of education. The Philippine education system is composed of public and private education system. Under Article 14, there's a section there, Section 4, I believe, it talks about the complementary role of public and private education. Kayo po ay partners po namin. Marami pong, kaya nga nakalagay po sa saligang batas, ang Estado ay dapat may sistema ng programa, maintaining scholarship grants, subsidies, yun po yung sa amin sa bahagi ng basic education. Sa tertiary level, they have the UNIFAS, Scholar ng Bayan Law, DOST, meron din po yan, I'm sure. Yan po ang ilan sa mga programang pinapatupad. Sana ang UST po natin ay marami pong slots na nakukuha sa UNIFAS, I hope. So we go to the next slide. But what I'm saying is private and public schools are partners. And we are investing to improve our learning environment. Next slide. Improving our alternative learning system. Those who cannot enroll in the formal school, we have a very strong alternative learning system po. Next slide. Malnourished and undernourished, malaking bagay po rin yan. May programa po tayo dyan, mahigit 2 milyon. Taon-taon, meron pong special feeding program po tayo na ginagawa. Yan po'y alinsunod, lalong-lalo na po sa unang mga taon po. Baka sa kolehiyo, hindi po ganun nakikita ito bilang suliranin. Pero sa atin po, ang bata, lalo na kinder to grade 3, pag nagugutom, hindi po nila talaga mauunawaan ang kanila po nilang pinag-aaralan. Wala po silang tamang nutrisyon, tamang timbang base sa kanilang edad at laki. Binibigyan po natin, meron po tayong school feeding program po para dyan. Next slide please. At pinagpapatuloy po natin yan. Maski ngayon po, dinideliver na lamang po yung meal sa bahay ng batang undernourished or severely wasted po. Computerization program, we have that definitely, especially in this time of pandemic. Next slide. Tapusin na natin. We are really trying our best to reduce the teacher to learner ratio and we have successfully done that. Nasa 1:32 hanggang 1:28 na po tayo sa elementary level. Mas maganda, medyo mas mataas ang bahagya sa high school. Next slide please. Pero wala na po yung nung araw na 1:60 or 70, wala na po yan. And we are now enhancing and trying to strengthen our TV and radio-based capability to deliver our modules on top of what we're trying to do on online learning po. Next slide. There are continuing reforms po na meron po tayo. Ito po yung kampanya ng ating kalihim, Leonor Liling Magtolis Briones, Konsulong Edukalidad. Next slide please. Ito po ang nais ko po sigurong sabihin. Ako, isa po talagang malaking karangalan. Hindi po ako magsasawang bagitin po ito na makasama ko po kayong lahat sa ating pong National Multisectoral Summit Educational Transformation. Alam po ninyo, ito pong ating partner UST Graduate School Center for Continuing Professional Education and Development, UST Alumni Association. Si Dean Henry, hello po, convener nitong summit po natin ito, Professor Evelyn Songko, Doc Michael, Professor Jocelyn, Professor Ida, Dr. Fernando, ang ating pong host, napakabait po, Professor Emmanuel, Engineer Jonathan, other speakers, DDG Rosanna, Chairman na Alberto Phoenix, Secretary Ramon Lopez, marami pong salamat sa inyo dahil po sa inyong lahat. Kami po'y talagang lubos na nagpapasalamat. Yung amin pong isinusulong na magpatuloy pong mangarap ang ating mga anak, kolehiyo man o sa high school o elementarya, ay pwede pa rin pong mangyari dahil ang kanila pong pangarap ay pwedeng mangyari dahil sa pagpapatuloy po ng ating edukasyon sa gitna ng pandemyang ito. Mabuhay po kayo, mabuhay po ang University of Santo Tomas Alumni Association, mabuhay po ang kabataang Filipino. Salamat po.
Ano po, unang-una po, as a response to you, unang-una po, nagpapasalamat po ang UST na pinagkatiwalaan ng pamilya nyo ang UST. Lalo ikaw, pinadala mong anak mo, hayaan mo, alagaan namin ng mabuti. At yung iyong pinapanukala, UST Alumni Association ang kausap mo, attorney. Wala na pong ibang magandang backer dyan kundi UST Alumni Association. May resulta po yan. Pagkatapos po, pangalawa po, gusto ko lang pong kayo.
Professor, kasama ang daddy ko dyan. Kaya lang wala na yung daddy ko eh. Nag-graduate siya ng UST College po eh. Tapos yung anak ko, member na rin po. Tama, hindi po ba? Kasi graduate siya ng college.
Tama na po sila. Opo. Tapos po, makikita niyo po si Esquire, ang pinili niyang pasukan, DepEd. Doon talaga sa basic education ang kanyang pinuntahan, hindi sa koleyo. Makikita ninyo na naintindihan niya na yung edukasyong mangyayari sa taas, sa baba muna mag-uumpisa. Tapos yung kanyang ginawa pong approach sa atin, kinontextualize niya nga po yung kanyang speech ngayon, ang isa pong makikita niyo maganda riyan in-emphasize niya muna, ang Philippine educational system ay hindi pang publiko lang. May private po dyan, palagi lang magkasama yan. At pangalawa po, ito pong isang maganda pag nakakarinig ka ng isang abogado. Kasi binibigyan tayo ng assurance, binibigyan ng framework. Ito ang legal na basihan ng ating ginagawa. Kaya hindi ito basta inisip lang. Kaya po binagsak niya rin yung pangalan ni Father Bernas na dating presidente ng Ateneo, dean ng College of Law ng Ateneo, na isang framer din ng 1987 Constitution. Kaya po meron tayong kasiguruhan sa mangyayari sa mga anak natin. O nga pala, attorney, hindi po marami pong magulang nakikinig sa inyo, kaya po hindi nasasayang yung inyong sinabi. Okay.
Professor, I forgot to say too, my sister is also an alumna, youngest sister, journalism, UST.
Ganun po? Okay, talaga nga naman po. Mga kaibigan, dear audience, makikita niyo po sa paraan ng pag-approach sa atin ni Esquire UMALI. Siya po, hindi ko po sinabi kanina una kasi gusto kong panghuli ito. Makikita niyo po na siya ang PUP, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, nakita yung galing niya at contribution niya. Kaya siya inawardan po ng Doctorate Honoris Causa in Public Administration. Yan po ang magiging bagong teacher ng UST. Okay po. Sige po. Salamat po ng marami ulit, Esquire.
Ang karangalan po ay nasa amin. Salamat po, Professor Emmanuel Batoon. Salamat po.
Sige po. Thank you. So now, we've learned something about the preparations of TESDA as well as that of the TET in the context of Industry 4.0 and COVID-19. Now, these are the public servants in government. And we have now a public servant in the industry. Okay. So we will learn something from him, especially those who would like to know what characteristics are required or the firms are looking for in terms of those who would like to gain employment in the private sector. Guys, I have to tell you, our speaker for this segment of our webinar is ordained to business early on. Ang harap po sa atin ay hindi lang basta businessman. Ang kakaharapin po natin na isang guru of business. You see, he's been ordained to business because early on he thought that he realized that he had to hone his mathematical skills. And you know what? He enrolled at the Ateneo and he finished the degree AB in Mathematics, cum laude. Okay, kita niyo yan ha, cum laude lang naman ha, kita niyo. Tapos ngayon, he pursued master's and doctorate studies in industrial management at the Sloan School of Management of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Ladies and gentlemen, MIT po ito, MIT doctorate. Okay? After learning his degrees, he engaged in a short stint as a teaching fellow at the MIT. Siyempre, magtuturo na magaling eh. But through his experience, he came to understand how it feels like to be an employee, or as they call it then, how to be a simple, ordinary personnel. Now, so kaya ngayon, sa kanyang galing, sa kanyang trabaho doon, he could have stayed long in the States, but he felt also something, an urge within him to go back to his motherland. When he moved back to the Philippines, he put up businesses one after the other, the latest of which is the firm Management and Capital Incorporated. So, ito po sa ganitong exposure niya, he learned about the wonders, surprises, and even pitfalls of human resources. So, given this wealth of experience, he decided to help the commerce and industry of the state by joining the crusade of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, focusing on the most important, if not the more important, if not the most important component of business, and that is human resource. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to tell you, let's give a big round of applause to the President of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Human Resources Development Foundation Incorporated, Dr. Alberto P. Phoenix Jr.
Thank you, Dr. Emmanuel Batoon, for the introduction. I'd like to greet Evelyn Sonko, the President of the UST Alumni Association, Dean Anthony VASCO, and to my fellow speakers, DepEd Undersecretary TONISITO M.C, TSDA Deputy Director General ROSANNA URDANETA, and our DDI Secretary Ramon Lopez. My fellow speakers are all my good friends. And paraphrasing the memorable line in the movie Casablanca, I would say that you have rounded up the usual suspects to be speakers at today's forum. And I say good morning to all participants to this forum. I hope to do justice to the topic assigned to me. I have a brief presentation, and I don't even have a PowerPoint. Being a businessman, I strive to be sparse in words, but heavy in content. I am currently one of the members of an education task force convened by the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And we are in the thick of our work to come up with recommendations to improve our education system to meet the demands of the fourth industrial revolution. This ETF paper, to be titled Innovate Education, Transform Our Future, will be published in booklet form and available in November 2021. According to recent McKinsey report, and I quote, the fourth industrial revolution, which started in the 2010s, is causing the lines between physical, digital, and biological realms to blur. From artificial intelligence to self-driving cars, robotics, 3D printing, quantum computing, virtual reality, and more are already upon us. Unquote. These technologies are reshaping the world, or to put it another way, disrupting our lives. It is disrupting the world of work, eliminating many types of jobs, but creating new jobs requiring higher skills and knowledge. Technology is made possible by the ever-increasing availability of cheap computing power, storage, and connectivity are automating many routine tasks. Computers are increasingly taking over bookkeeping, clerical work, and repetitive manufacturing jobs. At the same time, many jobs are being created that require creativity and problem-solving skills. So now we come to the topic of my talk. What are the challenges that Industry 4.0 brings to higher education? The answer is that higher education needs to move beyond existing approaches. It needs to restructure and utilize new methods of teaching and learning. Although our topic is limited to higher education, let me state that this process of restructuring higher education must start with restructuring basic education. In basic education, learners should acquire the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And plus today, we must add digital literacy. The learning should be a circular staircase with increasing complexity as the learner moves from grade level to the next grade level. Learners need a strong foundation in literacy and numeracy. You cannot code if you cannot do math. You cannot communicate effectively if you cannot read or write. You cannot innovate without knowledge. Higher education should continue this circular staircase with still increasing complexity, as will give the learners the skills, competencies, and capabilities needed in the world of work. The way education is organized and structured today is still the same as it was centuries ago. We can even date it back beyond 1620, when the University of Santo Tomas was founded. Education was bricks and mortar, in a location, teacher and students in a classroom, and what was being taught and learned was mostly dependent on what the teacher knew. I dare say that we still see this structure in a majority, if not in most, educational institutions in our country. To me, education is absorbing information into our brains and accessing that information when we need it. With the technologies I previously mentioned, information is more and more digitized, stored, and made accessible by electronic means. The early version of this is Google. When we need to look something up, we search using Google. Before, we would go to the library or use the more concise encyclopedia. The digitization of information makes possible the simultaneous provision to many, the knowledge when we need it, where we need it, and customized for what we need it for. The next step will be augmented or virtual reality, where one can experience and learn touring the canals of Venice without going to Venice, to learning how to operate a complicated machine, An early example of the latter is the flight simulator, where pilots can hone their piloting skills. There will therefore be a rise in online education. Here, we must focus on the most urgent need for education: internet connectivity. We have to put in place connectivity with faster bandwidth and with access available to all Filipinos from all over the country. Connectivity is essential to modern life, so much so that I think it is a public utility, and I believe it should be made available for free. This glimpse of future education, however, makes me wrestle with what I believe is just as important, which is that as social persons, we need interaction with other persons, especially with our peers. My own prediction is that education in the future will be hybrid, with online learning at home or in other places, but with periods spent in the bricks and mortar institutions for person-to-person interaction. In addition, our educational institutions, or let me insert something here. Therefore, in addition to having universal and countrywide connectivity, our educators must search for technologies that transform our education system. And also in addition, our educational institutions should fill two other roles. One is research and development of new technologies, products, and services. This is woefully lacking in our Philippine educational institutions today. The second is to be a stimulus for the growth and development of the communities around it, such as setting up business incubators, reskilling and upskilling programs, etc. We have been hearing and reading that the Philippines is a laggard, not only in its economic development, but also in many other metrics, of which education is one of them. I believe our being a laggard in education is at the core of our country being a laggard in development. It is imperative that we restructure our education system immediately. We cannot stand still. We must redouble our efforts to shorten the gap or even overtake the other countries. How to achieve this? This is what the PCI Education Task Force is currently working on, to come up with the recommendations to innovate education, transform our future. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. As I said earlier to the early people that came in, I also have connections to the University of San Romas. My mother is an alumna with a bachelor's degree in elementary education, and she went on really to become an educator, establishing the Teachers College at the Notre Dame University in Cotabato, where she educated and trained thousands of teachers in that school. So again, thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you very much. So if I will recap what I've learned from your sharing, Doctor. The context is the Philippines as a laggard in the educational system. So we need to restructure this educational system. And course, the point of departure should be basic education. One key restructuring that you emphasize is the structure of connectivity. And that connectivity should be, this was very much, wonderful to hear. It should be considered as a public utility, and it should be for free. Oh, that's really big deal. And eventually you emphasize that when our educational system, at least in the higher levels, should emphasize research and development on not just in any research, but in technological, in new technologies. Okay, and then see how we can improve also on growth and development. Well, given all of these, Doctor, we really appreciate your sharing, and we are also proud that you recognize your connection with UST through your mother. Real educator. Thanks so much, Doctor. Okay, now we move to our last but not the least speaker. Okay, so I told you at the beginning that tatlo po yun. Una doon ka sa may ano ba yung iyong maririnig sa TESDA para mag-upskill and reskill ka. Ano rin yung maririnig mo doon sa Department of Education para man ikaw ay mag-upskill at reskill. Lalo na sa level ng basic education. Binigyan na po yan ng ating mga speakers. Pangatlo po, we have the industry point of view. Ang point of view nila ay yung ang kanilang perspektibo from the private industry, Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Dapat talaga magkaroon ng restructuring ng educational system natin. Ngayon, nasabi yung mga problema, eventually, meron palang ginagawa ang Philippine Chamber of Commerce para makarespond nga doon sa restructuring na yan. These are all welcome knowledge to us, to all of us. Why? Because it's giving us hope. Hope not just to survive Industry 4.0, but also to prevail over it. Now, ito na po yung macro view ang ating makikita. Lalong-lalo na doon sa mga entrepreneur. Ano ang maririnig mo sa ating speaker? Ngayon, alam niyo ba, ang naimbitahan lang naman po ng UST Alumni Association ay isang graduate ng UST High School. Okay. Yun pong personality niya ay doon nga, nagpasok sa UST ng high school. Pagkatapos, he moved to UP where he studied economics. Afterwards, he went to, hindi pala magandang ano yun. He went to the States and topped his class in the course Master in Development Economics at Williams College in Massachusetts again, USA. Ngayon, siyempre, pagkatapos niyang mag-aral, he looked for, I don't know if he looked for it, but perhaps he was invited because of his brilliance. After completing his studies, our speaker spent more than 20 years with a major Philippine food and beverage company. Na hindi ko na po sasabihin yung pangalan ng kumpanya kasi baka sabihin tayo ay nag-advertise. Ngayon, in this company po, he toiled to learn all that needs to know about the economics of private business, including, ito po ang crucial, the challenges that the private industry faces whenever an industrial revolution occurs. Ayon. He eventually realized that he wanted to participate in the nationwide action to resolve the problem. National level na po kasi nakikita niya talaga doon sa company nila, although meron siya nagagawa, kulang. So he joined the Department of Trade and Industry. Ngayon po, we often see our speaker on TV expressing short messages. However, in this webinar, you will hear him speak at great length about the state of our nation's industry with regard to the fourth industrial revolution. And I'd like to advise you, as you listen, look at him carefully, and you'll realize that he looks better on Zoom than on TV. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to our great Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry, Ramon M. Lopez.
Maraming salamat po, Professor Emmanuel Batoon, to the UST Alumni Association President Evelyn Songko, Vice President INOCENCIA Ida Tiokno, to Dean Michael Anthony VASCO of the UST Graduate School, and of course, Professor Batoon, to our fellow speakers, panelists, Dr. Bert Phoenix, isa pong ginagalang natin sa PCCI at sa industry sector, si USEC TONISITO UMALI of DepEd, USEC ROSANNA URDANETA of TESDA, mga kapartners po natin sa ating pong Skills Future. Kasama rin po natin ang DTI Undersecretary Rafaelita or Fita Aldaba of DTI. Ang ating mga entrepreneur advocacy partners, nakita ko si Henry Tenedero, si Dr. Carl Balita, ang aking batchmate po sa UST High School 77, ang guru po natin sa accounting, Lito Malabanan. At tsaka po si I think yung Emmanuel Estrada, kung di ako nagkamali, ito rin, kung siya ito yung classmate din natin na yung big boss sa atin sa Globe Telecoms. Fellow workers in government, mga partners sa private sector. Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant morning to the organizers and participants of this webinar series. Allow me to begin. I just have a few slides, but na-excite ako dun sa talk ni Dr. Phoenix. Actually, totoo po yun. Yung internet and the online connectivity, interconnectivity is really very important. In fact, I would consider it even as a basic human right nowadays. It's access to information, and it is this access to information that will really be a great equalizer to our society. Imagine anybody, as long as connected to the far-flung areas in our country, can have the same access to information as those from the city. Their exposure to design, to information, to many things in the internet, worldwide info, will be accessible to them. That alone is very important. And I will digress a bit. That is the reason why recently, after I think over 2 decades of closure of the satellite service industry, the President Duterte, issued another EO that basically opens up the satellite service. The satellite service is one service that can open up the access to interconnectivity, not depending on the telcos to create interconnectivity. So satellite services will provide internet connectivity. So once we have that, of course, in addition to all the projects and programs of DICT, mapapadali na yung interconnectivity, lalo na sa malalayong lugar, access to education, access to information. And to me, again, I must state that that is really now a basic human right. Let me begin my brief presentation with the status of the Philippine manufacturing sector in terms of its readiness to transition to Industry 4.0, being ito po ang topic natin ngayon. Well, the Philippines manufacturing sector still has yet to maximize its level of technology utilization. To note some findings, it was recorded that 44% of companies lack maintenance systems and act only when problems arise. Alam po ito ni Dr. Phoenix. 31% have shop floor. No? Status push via scheduled report. Nakapapel pa, no? 35% use Excel sheets but don't integrate them with manufacturing systems. 53% control and track manufacturing activities through a manual paper-based system. And 58% have no manufacturing equipment connected to the network. However, looking at the openness of the Philippine manufacturing enterprises to Industry 4.0, in terms of familiarity by different levels of enterprises, 77% of micro-level enterprises are familiar with Industry 4.0, while 67% of SMEs are familiar. And lastly, and expectedly, 83%, a bigger number of large enterprises, are familiar with Industry 4.0. The primary consideration of shifting to Industry 4.0 is if it can improve productivity and competitiveness, this is something that we will really have to invest on. Innovation and technology advancement, as well as cost and investment and funding share second place with 13% each. Meanwhile, the primary barriers to Industry 4.0 are lack of financial capability and unfamiliarity. Now, Industry 4.0 has already changed the employment landscape of the Philippines with AI, data analytics, AI-related jobs rising in prominence. The top 5 emerging jobs in the Philippines in order are robotics engineer, cybersecurity specialist, customer success specialist, data scientist, and sales development representative. Due to the changing landscape, there is a need to upskill and reskill, topics that we have discussed with TESDA and DepEd. Upskill and reskill our young students, given that the Philippines has a relatively young population with a median age of 25 years old. We need to develop a highly educated workforce for the future. There are over 790,000 annual college graduates in the country, and over 200,000 of these graduates are in the engineering, information technology, and medical-related fields. This is the often cited factor why many of the foreign investors now located in the country are here. Parati po nila sinasa ito. In other countries, they see the lack of all these critical talents and human resources. So that is one advantage that Philippines has, and that is the reason why we continue to attract. But of course, we have to do a lot more than this. That's the reason why we have a lot of liberalization moves in terms of economic reforms like the Retail Trade Law, the Public Service Act revision, the CREATE Act that we acted, that was recently issued by the President last February, that brought down income tax rate, etc., and rationalized investment incentives. So many reforms are being done to attract investment. No? But definitely, yung manpower resources, talent po that we have is really a clear attraction to the foreign investors. The pandemic situation has resulted in the accelerated adoption of digital tools and automation of tasks in all levels of our lives. 55.1% of enterprises are expected to modify their value chain by 2025, and 34.5% are expected to expand their workforce due to automation. Likewise, the technologies most likely to be adopted by 2025 are cloud computing. Kaya marami tayong niimbitan mga data centers and hyperscalers nowadays, no, to strengthen this particular sector. Big data analytics in relation to AI that I will discuss later. Internet of Things, encryption and cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence. The two most planned adoptions in response to the pandemic are the acceleration of digitalization of work processes at 84%, followed by providing more opportunities to work remotely at 83%. Amid Industry 4.0 and global developments, our new innovation-centered and science and technology-based industrial policy, inclusive innovation industrial strategy, I3S, tatlong I, ibig sabihin, inclusive innovation industrial strategy, aims to grow innovative and globally competitive manufacturing, agriculture, service industries. Kasama na po dyan ang micro SMEs. Whenever we talk of SMEs, we're not talking of the micro na micro. We're trying to always upgrade them and increase their innovativeness and being globally competitive. These are the training that we provide them. We want them to move up that ladder no, corporate ladder. And of course, we want to strengthen the linkages into the domestic, ibig sabihin, connect sila, no? And the global value chain. No? So they supply us and we supply to the other companies in other countries. Under the I3S, the government coordinates policies and provides support services for industries to take advantage of market opportunities, overcome challenges, and act as an engine for sustained and inclusive growth, as well as job creation and poverty reduction. Now, let me talk about Regional Inclusive Innovation Centers. This is a big program that we're doing with DOST, no, DTI, DOST, and other agencies. Our Inclusive Philippine Innovation and Entrepreneurship Roadmap aims to increase the country's ability to innovate. With innovation at the core of the country's strategic industry development policies and programs, we are working towards establishing an inclusive innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in the country. Our ultimate aim is for the country to be constituted by connected and creative communities in various regions of the country. In partnership with the OST and other agencies, we are building regional inclusive innovation centers in different parts of the country. The RIIC consists of a network of innovation agents that collaborate in order to commercialize market-oriented research towards competitiveness in the region. It is a government initiative in cooperation with the industry and academy, which aims to generate better employment opportunities, more entrepreneurial activities, and sustainable economic prosperity in the country's region. The RIIC initiative adopts an ecosystem-wide approach to bridge the gap of the country's innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem. This involves mapping ecosystem agents and the R&D competencies of higher education institutions. We have 4 pilot RIICs to date: sa Legazpi, Region 5, Cebu, Cagayan de Oro, Davao. And another 4 are currently being established in Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, and Zamboanga. To sustain the initiative per RIIC region, a core group of regional stakeholders from government, academic, industries formed to drive the efforts forward. RIICs are also receiving active support from these regions' business groups and micro SMEs, local SUCs, and the regional offices of national agencies. Some of the collaborations in RIICs are expressed through government-academic partnership, may business matching, may mentorship, access to shared service facilities, access to R&D laboratories, co-working spaces, fabrication laboratories, startup incubation, and acceleration centers. Currently, over 60 micro SMEs across the RIICs are substantively engaged with other local partners and initiatives such as research partnerships with local state university or college, technology deployment in the market, and product development. Some of these engagements have translated into formal proposals for funding from DOST, and other qualified for local grants in aid. A number are being funded also by the firms themselves. Again, so to clarify, we are able to link now research institution with industry. Ibig sabihin, the innovation culture is passed on to the industry. Okay, that's number one. And that any product development or innovation that the industry would like to do, or industry problems that they would like to be solved, they now partner with a school that will give them the framework, the R&D, and all that. So it is what I refer to as research-based innovation. Okay, now consider this. The other way naman, symbiotic ito. The other way naman is that given that the research being done by academic institutions are those demanded by industry. Ibig sabihin, trying to solve industry problem. Ibig sabihin, it now becomes market-based research studies. So, hindi lang research for research purposes, kung hindi, these are really the ones needed by the industry. So that's the reason why this is really a beautiful approach in terms of really having a symbiotic relationship between the academe and the institution, academic institution, and the industry. Moving to Industry 4.0 approach, DTI's Industry 4.0 approach is to support manufacturing firms from end to end, from awareness to adoption. DTI provides support throughout the journey of Industry 4.0 transformation of manufacturing enterprises, covering all facets of production, skills, financial support, and technology expertise. Industry 4.0 workshops, meanwhile, gathers C-level company executives of leading manufacturing firms in the Philippines to introduce Industry 4.0 concepts and technologies and discuss how these can be leveraged to future-proof their factories. To date, we have conducted Industry 4.0 workshops to more than 200 C-level executives in the automotive, electronics, aerospace, chemicals, food manufacturing, and the construction materials sector. DTI has also partnered with Siemens, the ADB, and the World Economic Forum to scale up the adoption of Smart Industry Readiness Index as a digital maturity assessment framework to assess the Industry 4.0 readiness of Philippine manufacturing companies, including the micro SMEs. SIRI, developed by the Singapore Economic Development Board, is a suite of frameworks and tools to help manufacturers, regardless of size and industry, start, scale, and sustain their Industry 4.0 transformation. Through SIRI, manufacturers will be equipped with the right insights to better navigate their Industry 4.0 journey, namely the assessment of the Industry 4.0 readiness of the company's production dimensions, benchmarking of the company's current performance compared to its local and international peers in the industry, which have also taken the SIRI assessment, and determination of the prioritized areas of improvement based on their impact, viability, and alignment to the company's overall growth strategies. Through the implementation of the Global SIRI initiative in the Philippines, we are continuing to pilot the adoption of SIRI in select companies across industries with the goal of attracting more companies to be interested and be familiar with the SIRI as well. Now, moving to Philippine Skills Framework, a topic na very, very familiar with you all. Consistent with our I3S, Inclusive Innovation Industrial Strategy, we are implementing the Philippine Skills Framework Initiative, which is an interagency effort to build the skills and competencies of our human capital and better prepare our country's workforce for the future economy. It involves the development of sector-specific skills frameworks that will guide the country's workers in enhancing their skills for particular job roles. These will provide relevant sectoral information, including its employment landscape, the various occupations, jobs, roles, which describe the skills requirement, work context, and expected profile of the worker performing the occupation and job role. The skills description, which defines the performance expectation from each skill, the career pathways, or how these occupations, job roles in the sector are structured progressively, and possible training programs, which link the skills identified under particular occupation or job roles to programs available. Through the PSF, employers will be able to identify the skills and competencies of potential employees must have to be able to effectively fulfill a job role. Companies can also use the framework to design progressive human resource management and talent development plans for their employees. For their part, job seekers will be able to define ways forward or upward in a particular industry by specifying the skills and competencies that he or she would need to acquire in order to advance in his or her chosen career path. Furthermore, educational and training institutions can use the skills framework to revise existing curricula or design new courses that would capacitate workers with the competencies demanded by industry currently and in the future. Under our PSF initiative, we are prioritizing the following sectors: construction, creatives, food, and that means agriculture and fishery, health and wellness, IT BPM, logistics, supply chain, manufacturing, of course, and tourism. DTI, in partnership with the Logistics Services Philippines Association, has actually launched already the first ever PSF or Philippine Skills Framework for the supply chain and logistics sector, which has been prepared through the collaboration between DTI, PTTC, TESDA, the PRC or Professional Regulatory Commission, and our stakeholders from the local supply chain and logistics industry with the assistance of consultants from Singapore Institute of Materials Management, Accelerator, and Thames International Business School. Our intention is for the various PSFs to be integrated and harmonized with the corresponding industry roadmaps, which have been guiding our industry development initiatives under our Manufacturing Resurgence Program. Okay, on digital economy initiatives, some other DTI initiatives for capacity building towards digital economy include the ASEAN SME Academy, so one-stop multi-platform online learning information resource, which aims to provide training and mentorship to ASEAN SMEs. Control plus B's Reboot Now. This is a webinar that we've been doing since the start of the pandemic so that we can digitally transform a lot of our micro SMEs. Those who did not even have an email or no Facebook connection, Instagram and all that, we wanted them to continue the marketing part and of course the research and development part by allowing them to teaching them how to digitalize. Tech tools for MSMEs during COVID-19. It's a Google site developed by DTI to provide information to MSMEs on the different technology tools, applications, platforms, and resources available in coping with the challenges of the community quarantine. And the Trabajo and Negosyo Skills Pathway. For this project, the DTI e-commerce group is spearheading the launching of Trabajo Skills Pathway, which composed of tracks on entrepreneurial skills for online enterprises and digital skills pathway for MSMEs, as well as tracks for pivot that embrace technology, consisting of workshop series that aims to cater to those who are seeking remote employment or wish to adopt alternative careers. And we partner with many institutions on this one. In fact, dito kapartner natin, informatics, alumnus din ng UST po yan, si Leo Riingen. No? Now on, of course, we'll discuss a bit artificial intelligence technology. I'm looking at the clock. Pwede pa naman. AI technologies can unlock $1 trillion to Southeast Asia's GDP, 92 billion of which goes to the Philippines' GDP. AI technology can be used in a wide range of fields and industries. These include, but are not limited to, yung precision farming, knowing what to farm, where to farm, what kind of crop, where AI can be used to forecast supply also and demand, as well as the weather, or autonomous vehicles, nabanggit po kanina, which can make use of AI in order to further develop autonomous driving systems or predictive maintenance para sa mga manufacturing, pati na rin sa automotive. No? Smart manufacturing, making use of AI and Internet of Things, intelligent sensors, automation, and many more that are connecting many of the machines. AI can also be used to make AI-powered customer assistance, AI-powered human agents, and predictive call routing. Looking at the global state of AI as of 2020, the most commonly adopted uses for AI revolves around product innovation, optimization of service operations and customer service, risk modeling, and energy and output optimization. To this end, DTI is in coordination with other concerned national government agencies and in consultation with key stakeholders from industry and the academe, launched the National AI Strategy Roadmap to guide the adoption of the AI in the country and its utilization in the agribusiness, manufacturing, and services industries. Si Dr. Fita Aldaba po ang nag-lead dito sa magandang project na to. The country's national AI roadmap will position the Philippines as a regional hub for big data processing and analytics, building on its large footprint in the global IT and BPM sectors. It also envisions AI to be a catalyst of digitalization among our micro SMEs. So take note, kasama po ang micro SMEs whenever we talk of AI. So AI is not for the big boys, not only for the big boys. A key strategic imperative of roadmap is to accelerate innovation with AI by establishing a National Center for AI Research. The National Center for AI Research, or NCARE, will serve as a hub where multinational companies, even small companies, again, can explore various R&D projects with the Philippine government, its researchers, and or its linkages with higher educational institutions and R&D institutions. Just like yung kinuwento po natin kanina sa Regional Inclusive Innovation Centers, yung pagsasama and symbiotic relationship between industry and the research center. This is the same relationship with the National Center for AI Research and Industry. Just like any national research center, NCARE will serve as the incubator for collaboration between universities, industries, startups, and other government research units. NCARE aims to offer consultancy services, AI tech products, and data literacy training with focus on manufacturing services, construction, finance, banking, healthcare, and or agriculture industries. Again, kasama po ang SMEs sa pag-access nitong mga services na to. It is envisioned to be a technology provider and research leader in areas that include, among others, precision agriculture, smart city, resilience technology, and smart manufacturing. New technologies can drive inclusive, resilient, sustainable, and industrial development for the Philippines. Smart manufacturing introduces innovation and competitiveness, transforming how goods are produced and what goods are produced. In the process, it provides better job and income opportunities, higher productivity, it creates new industries, and promotes environmental sustainability. It builds industrial competitiveness and enhances linkages of enterprises to other industries. Napakadami pa po niyan na mga interconnected benefits because of all these R&D and AI initiatives that we are doing. But I have to close. So let me just emphasize that investments in new technologies, digitalization, and innovation are investments on resilience, sustainability, competitiveness, and long-term business growth, which are all necessary as we enter our economic recovery. Together, let us help create a strong manufacturing industry. And by manufacturing, I also include industry and services that will build back better a more competitive and innovative Philippines, as envisioned by our President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you po, dear Secretary. Thank you very much. Mag-react lang po ako sa mga sinabi ninyo. In-affirm nyo yung sinabi ni Dr. Felix na tungkol sa connectivity at yun ay sa inyo pinalawak nyo na siya from mere public utility na claim ni Dr. Felix. It's now a human right as far as you're concerned. Okay, big deal po yun. Pagkatapos, in-affirm nyo rin yung research and development ng hindi lang kung ano, kundi ito sa may technology development. Okay po. Then you presented to us an overview ng manufacturing sector kung ano na nangyayari ngayon and highlighted the idea of regional innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem. Okay. Ang dami po nito. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Mabuhay kayo.
Mabuhay po. Thank you po.
Okay, we now move to we have to take a short break to screen the questions that were raised. So in the meantime, we'll have a word from our sponsors, namely Globe Telecom's Carl Balita Review Center, Vice, Radius Telecoms, and Metro Rail Transit Corporation. Thank you for your generosity. Okay? Right, we will have a short video clip for this.
Malaki ang epekto sa amin ng pandemic. Bagsak ang negosyo namin pero sinagip kami ng online selling. Kung hindi siguro dahil sa Globe, wala kasi nag-try ako ng iba. Wala very reliable ang network nila.
Sa aming mga nagla-livestream, mahalaga yung maayos na koneksyon. Nakakahiya pag naglalagang signal. Malaki na pinag-iba ngayon. Okay na yung 4G pero mas lalong gumanda ng 5G. Our live stream will not be possible kung hindi malakas ang signal ng Globe.
Yung alam ko na 15 to 20 Mbps na speed, nadoble na pala. Partida, 4G lang ang gamit ko nito. Ang laking bagay kasi pag yung video calling saka streaming hindi naglalag. Pati yung pag-feed namin sa base, sobrang smooth na din. Ever since I'm using Globe, kaya kitang-kita ko ang improvement na network.
Because so much of our lives are online. If you get disconnected,
Ready for our recitation, kids?
do you even exist? Welcome to the Red Life. Introducing Red Fiber. 100% fiber internet. A life with reliable connection. With flexible plans for different lifestyles. No worries of getting cut off. And dependable customer service. So when it matters most, you're always ready.
Good job, Jacob.
Get ready for the Red Life. Red Fiber. Reliability redefined.
Okay, we have arrived at the most interesting and enjoyable part, which is the question and answer open forum. May I now again invite the DTI, no, Undersecretary UMALI, Deputy Director ROSANNA, and Dr. Phoenix to open their cameras and join us. I was informed that the DTI Secretary had to leave earlier to attend another commitment. So in his place, Undersecretary Dr. Rafaelita Aldaba, okay, will take the floor. We recognize her and welcome her presence and participation in this open forum. Okay, we are fortunate to have you another government woman executive to enrich our discussion. Welcome, ma'am. Okay, let's give her a round of applause, please. Okay, now, we don't have much time left. So I'm gonna throw in one question to all of you, if you don't mind. Oh, ito ang nangyari. You came to, what's this? You studied the disturbance, the disruptions and disorders brought about by Industry 4.0. And you informed us about the policies, frameworks, and programs that you formulated and developed. The question is, meron bang mga disruptions then, disorder doon sa implementation ng ginawa niyo mga policies, frameworks, and programs? And what can we do as your audience to help out if in case there are really these disturbances? You may just jump in as you like. Mukhang gumagalaw si Deputy Director. Deputy, yung implementation mo ba ng TVET, may mga problema bang dumating din?
Madami pong problema.
Madaming
Madaming challenges actually, Prof, lalo na in the modernization aspect. Because as you have been very well aware, kung nakapunta na po kayo sa mga madaming eskwela, both public and private TVIs ng TSDA, medyo yung wanting po yung modernization in terms of facilities. That's why we wanted very much, yan parati ko pong kausap si Dr. Phoenix, to really have collaboration and partnership with the industry, basically because they have what we don't have. Primarily, these are the state-of-the-art equipment and all these things. So what we're trying to do now is really to provide po a major transformation in TESDA and in TVET. So we're partnering with a lot of mga international organizations in order to improve on our systems, improve on our modern facilities, partner with industries through dual training systems such that we will be able to have the luxury of the equipment and facilities that they have, come up with innovation centers so that we would really have an authentic learning environment near to the world of work na environment. But of course, hindi naman po perfecto ang environment natin ngayon, lalo na ngayon. And we're trying very hard to cope with the connectivity issue also. It's basically something that we have to really focus on, primarily because even if we, in fact, mga meetings po namin nationwide, kalahati po, noong una mga 400 ang participants, lahat ng TESDA. Maya-maya mo nun nakikita na sa chat na intermittent na yung wifi, blah, blah, blah. So there are things talaga that we have to really look into. Third is disruption in terms of trainers, the competency. We have to really look into the review of the Philippine TVET Trainers Qualifications Framework. We have to reskill and upskill our trainers such that both in technical as well as the soft skills, primarily because they have to teach also yung mga 21st century skills to their students. Dapat they have the same competency also. They should be equipped both with knowledge, skills, and attitude to have all those mga 21st century skills na competencies. So curriculum. We have also a challenge in curriculum because basically, sabi ko nga sa inyo, the change of technology is very fast. So the curriculum and the training regulations should also be fast in terms of development. When we came up with the time and motion study, 3 months po kaming nakakagawa ng training regulation. By the time na nagawa na namin yung training regulation, may bago na naman technology na nangyayari. So talagang we have to have a strategy of adapt and adapt such that there are other technologies outside of the country already that kailangan we have to have a stronger collaboration with other countries also. And then, of course, we are trying very hard to complete, together with DTI, the Philippine Skills Framework. Primarily because it will provide us really with the guidepost in really responding to the requirements of the industry. So these are all the challenges that I may be able to cite at this point, but these are really very, very major challenges. Thank you po.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Meron pong isa, Deputy Director, habol na lang ha, kasi it's about you then. Sabi niya, the TESDA online program has changed the way we learn, but I can't take the NC exams. For me to have a proof of learning to my job application, how can TESDA ensure we can implement more accessible TESDA NC certifications?
Yun na nga po ang medyo, buti na sabi niyo po yan, isa din sa challenge namin yan. Kasi nung nagsara po yung mga schools, temporary closure during the quarantine period, even the assessment centers of TESDA closed. Okay? So what we're doing right now is really to come up with delivery mechanisms na hindi naman po madedesecrate yung national certification system. So we're trying to do na, we're pilot testing industry certification, which was started by, of course, Dr. Phoenix. The idea of having that was started and initiated by Dr. Phoenix with TESDA. So we're now trying to do that because we can never really have all a perfect environment for an assessment. Pero we can also tap the industry to do industry certification. So, mga portfolio assessment po, where we're trying to beef up our portfolio assessment, and of course, yung institutional assessment namin, so that if the schools have already been acknowledged and recognized as an APEC or APAC awardee, yung APAC po is accreditation for TVET schools, then they could already be tapped to do institutional assessment, where we're trying to refine already our recognition process for that. So yun po, sir.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director. Now we go to Dr. Felix.
I think ladies first. Yusek
Ladies
Aldaba.
first. Okay. Yusek Aldaba.
Salamat po.
Salamat.
Same question, sir. Okay.
Question po ay yung generic question po muna ay di gumawa na kayo ng mga policies, frameworks, yung inyong programs, yan, to respond to the disruptions brought about by Industry 4.0. Ngayon, ano naman po ang na-meet niyo yung problema nung i-implement niyo na itong ginagawa niyong mga policies and programs sa end niyo?
Salamat po, Dr. Batoon, sa tanong. Marami pong na-i-present po kanina ni Secretary yung aming mga initiatives para nga po ihanda not only our industries, not only the companies, but as well as our workforce as to how we would face the challenges, but along with the opportunities arising from the fourth industrial revolution and the adoption of these new technologies. And what we found out was over 70% of the companies that we interviewed in the manufacturing industry, this was a survey carried out all over the country. What I've said, what we found out was over 70% of those interviewed were still utilizing very low levels of technology. And that was also earlier shown by SecMon. But apart from that, those companies that are utilizing the high levels of technology, meaning those that already have or those that have embedded the fourth industrial revolution technologies in their operations, are usually the large enterprises. They are mostly exporters. They are also the ones with foreign direct investments. And in terms of geographic location, they are concentrated not only in Metro Manila, but as well as in Central Luzon and Calabar Zone. I am highlighting this because this is something I think that we really should pay attention to, because if we do not if our policies won't take these things into account, the adoption of these new technologies could lead to the worsening of the digital divide. And hence, it's really important that our policies and programs are conscious of all these current operating systems, current situation and conditions that our companies are faced with. And I think I would also like to mention that most of the companies that were able to adopt this fourth industrial revolution technologies prior to the pandemic were actually more adept. They were more agile. They were able to even incur profits or minimize their losses because of the existing technologies and the existing systems that they had, as compared to others which were really hit badly once they had to stop their operations, and with all the supply and logistics disruptions that happened at the height of the pandemic. And another important lesson from these successful companies that adopted Industry 4.0 technologies is that a lot of them are saying that their success is only 10% technology, but it's really 90% human. Like what they said, technology, yes, it makes life easier, but it cannot inspire human and emotional connections. And hence, the focus also in terms of upskilling, reskilling, ensuring that we're able to upgrade, revise our curricula, it has to start from basic education. higher education, including TechVoc. And among, I think, just very quickly, if you would allow me, Dr. Batoon, some of the weaknesses, for instance, in our workforce, are there low levels of training and the brain drain, and majority of our workforce are being trained for low-level jobs, while highly trained professionals are leaving the country. There's also a low employability rate, and a jobs skills mismatch has been a very long problem. And then in terms of innovation, academe and industry collaboration, particularly as we try to pursue more innovation, and I think Dr. Phoenix also mentioned this earlier, academe industry linkages, I think we need to improve these linkages and try to address the fragmentation. We're also lagging in terms of technological readiness. I think that was mentioned. Low level of maturity to push collaboration, very low gross expenditure on R&D, and the country also lacks thousands of scientists, and private institutions also prefer to do R&D by themselves, and hence we built those regional inclusive innovation centers that Secmon also presented earlier. And we're also working together with the other government agencies, TESDA, CHED, DepEd, we've signed, DOST, NEDA, we've signed MOUs with all of them as we pursue our Industry 4.0 strategies.
Okay, Yusek, I have one last question for you. Since you are looking at the macro view of the whole nation's industry, the question is, for us to be politically correct, what's in it for women in your whole design?
Kasama po ang mga kababaihan. Like what we keep saying, as we adopt this fourth industrial revolution technologies, no one should be left behind. And when I said we need to focus in terms of addressing the digital divide, ensuring that as we adopt these new technologies, everyone is going to benefit. And hence, the strategy is really people-centered. Even women, alam po yan ni DDG Rose, kasama po talaga ang mga kababaihan in terms of all the trainings that we will be providing. Kasama po yan, bata, matanda, kasi po maraming mga upskilling, reskilling programs, nakikita na po natin yan sa experience ng ibang bansa. Pwede pa po magtrabaho kahit yung mga over 60 years old or yung mga nag-retire na, at lalong-lalo na po yung mga kababaihan. Online na po ngayon, digital, kahit nasa bahay ka lang, pwede ka talaga, basta equipped ka with all the necessary digital skills and with the right connections, I think dadami po yung mga trabaho. Kesa dun sa sinasabi before, ang argument is nakakatakot kasi baka mawalan ng trabaho ang ating mga kababayan. Pero hindi po ganoon ang ating pagtingin. Like for example, yung artificial intelligence, ang tingin po natin dyan ay gagamitin natin para i-augment yung skills ng mga tao. So it's really more about augmented intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. Gusto po nating i-augment yung capabilities ng mga tao para gumaan yung mga repetitive, yung mga risky jobs. Yan po ibigay natin sa mga robots. But in terms of mawala ng trabaho, hindi po ganun ang ating mga policies. And doon po nakatutok ang ating mga educational at capacity building programs para nga po ma-avoid natin na mangyari yung ganoon kalaking disruption as we adopt these new technologies. Siyempre po, kung hindi ka siguro nakahanda, baka ganoon ang mangyari. Pero tayo po, kasama with the private sector, government, academic industry, and other stakeholders, nakatutok po tayo sa collaboration para nga po isang direction lang po tayo at sabay-sabay, naka-align, harmonized yung po mga programa natin.
Thank you very much, Yusek. Very comforting words. Thank you. Now we move to Dr. Phoenix. From your end, Doctor, what can you see?
No, I think, as I said, it's our education and training system that needs to be restructured and to be reorganized, because that's the reason why we're laggards.
Yeah.
That's the main reason for our being laggards in terms of our development. No?
Yes, Doctor.
That is, and then part of that is that under this, in this Industry 4.0, this is again the essence of Industry 4.0 is the digitization of information and knowledge. And so in terms of preparing our human resources for the world and for the jobs of tomorrow, we have to really they really have to have digital literacy. But in addition to the basic 3 R's,
Yes.
And then the other one is, of course, life skills, and one life skill which is the most important as far as I'm concerned when I'm recruiting or I'm hiring people is character.
Character.
Yes, character. I mean, they may be the most qualified, but then if they don't have character, then I don't hire them. They have to show that they really have character. Unless character formation is done at the home and the community, and also, but also in school. So, and then go back to since it's a digital economy in effect, then really this connectivity is the most important that we have to put in place.
Yes, Doctor.
How to do it? Well, one way to do it is to really get commitments from the private telcos that are in this business today on certain schedules. And also we have government funding that has been set aside for connectivity, for putting in a backbone all throughout the Philippines. And recently, the PCGI was the one that pushed for the President Duterte to issue the EO, opening up the satellite sector of telecommunications. However, how to do it, we still are working on that. But we have Mr. Perry Ferrer, who is the owner and CEO of EMS. He has a system in his factory utilizing satellite for connectivity, and the cost is not very much. It's around 24,000 pesos, he said. But this is something that we are working on today. Then the president of PCCI for last year and this year, he put his theme as innovation. And many of our advocacies are that we should try to get this more innovation being done, and for which we already established the PCCI Innovation Center, and we were happy to see the visit by the Director General La Peña to our Innovation Center, because as we understand, the TESDA is setting up innovation centers all over the country, or in their training centers that are there. So the other one is, again, the third thing I would like to say is that we have to prioritize in terms of human resources development and in terms of education and training. And that's why we approached, and we are working with TESDA in setting up and establishing what we call a pre-employment education and training system, which will involve and which we will capacitate our nationwide network of associations, chambers, and enterprises and schools, or for short ACES, no? ACES. And the first step there is, again, to look for select a qualification or competence that you should be training, that you should be undertaking this training and education, and in a priority sector. No? Well, together with TESDA, and following the National Skills Development Plan, we agreed on the 7 priority sectors that they have in the plan. So we have worked already now on the tourism and hospitality, which is one. We have completed a program there and pilot tested it. And we were now on the verge, we started now replicating it in with 5 other chambers in the provinces. But unfortunately, the COVID overtook it, and we had to postpone, or we had to temporarily stop, because our program includes on-the-job training with our enterprises. Sarado yung mga restaurant at saka mga hotel. So wala kang makukuhang lugar na makapag-train sila. So what happened, for example, in the place where we had the pilot for this program, they shifted to other competencies or qualifications that did not require going there, but they had the facilities to do it. For example, cookery and dressmaking, which are available NCs that can be gotten from TESDA. So, but again, one of the priorities we have is again in the IT, in information technology field. So, for this, we are working, or we have an agreement to offer the Huawei ICT Academy courses, and also the Huawei mobile applications development courses. And we have already done a couple of programs there, and for which they will be getting a Huawei certificate, which is well recognized all over the world. So this improves the ability of our young people who finish the course and get certified to get employed, or to even start his own business, doing programming or developing applications which can be sold through the Huawei applications site. So for which Huawei also undertakes to help them. We are also working out now a joint with an agreement with Microsoft along the same lines of teaching them about ICT, cloud computing, these kinds of things. So in ICT, we do have some programs started. The whole point is that we have to develop and write a education and training program, or what we call what is called by TESDA as training regulation for an identified qualification in a priority sector. So that one is quite difficult to do. You have to get experts to really know what the qualification is about. But so far, as I said, we have done already in hotel and restaurant, and in the ICT, and we have started developing and will be finished within this year programs in agriculture. And what was the fourth one? Construction is the other one. Those were the four that they said we will start first out of the 7 that we agreed with TESDA. Okay, so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. Yeah. Now, we go to USEC UMALI, please. Dito ka na, sir. Mayroong tanong dito kasi. Ito natatanong ko na lang sa iyo. The senior high school strand should be prerequisite of the program they will take in college. That should pursue tertiary education. What is happening now is that after graduating from senior high school, they are allowed to enroll in any college program, even those not directly related to their SHS strand. Furthermore, some general subjects taught or taken in the senior high school should not be repeated come tertiary level. Can these concerns be corrected?
Yeah. Oo. Salamat po, Professor Emmanuel, and doon po sa nagpadala po ng katanungan na ito. Pero una sa lahat, humingi po ako ng paumanhin. Meron din po kasi akong isang event na nagsalita
Yes,
po ako.
Wala pong problema, sir.
Professor Emmanuel, what we should do is try to operationalize the mechanism provided for under Republic Act 10533, the Enhanced Basic Education Act. Ito po yung K-12 law po na tinatawag po natin. May bahagi po doon na pwede pong i-convene yung Curriculum Consultative Committee na kung saan ang CHED, ang TSDA, at ang pribadong sektor po. Ang alam ko po ay Mr. Phoenix, the PCCI is a part of this committee. If not, what I'm trying to say is the private sector is part of this committee. And we could review again the senior high school component of the K-12 curriculum. That's number one. Number two, we could really engage CHED and request them, as we already did. There are like 18 to 21 units, Professor Emmanuel, na dati po ay kinukuha pa rin sa kolehiyo, ngayon hindi na, because they are now mandatory required subjects in senior high school. Base po doon sa sinasabi, baka mayroon pang ibang mga subjects na nakukuha. Ito po siguro yung specialized subjects, for example, in STEM. And that's why we really appreciate what UST is doing. Ang alam ko po, ang UST, pag nagtapos ng STEM, mayroon po kayong, lalo na kung UST Senior High School din po nang galing, yun po ang aking pagkakaunawa at kami po'y natutuwa dito. Hindi na po kailangan ulitin ng batang pumasok sa grades 11 and 12 Senior High School ng UST, same subject, kung yun din ang kukunin niya sa kolehiyo. And there are other universities like that. I'm personally aware. I can be very sure with Manila Central University. I think also there's a school private school in Region 5. Yun po yung may personal knowledge ako eh. At UST, alam ko po dahil na medyo may particular nga po ako, Professor Emmanuel, na pag sinasabing UST, pinakikinggan ko parati po pag may mga ganyang mga storya eh. Dahil nga po sa mga nabanggit ko po sa inyo kanina, kung paano po namin pinapasalamatan ng UST bilang partner, at ako po personal, paano niya po pinuhubog yung aking anak, yung aking kapatid, yung aking ama bilang UST Alumni Graduates po ninyo at miyembro po lang ng asosasyon nyo. Pangalawa, Professor, I think we really have to sit down with pati rin po sa sa TESDA, yung amin po DDG na alam ni DDG ito yung amin pong TechVoc curriculum, hindi po ba DDG talaga po namin sinunod yung requirements ng TESDA para po yung amin pong nakapagtapos na pwede pong kumuha ng level 1 or level 2 MC level certification, may ganun po na exam ay talaga pong kwalipikado. Baka ganun din po sa TED. Yun po yung nakikita ko, Professor Emmanuel. Talagang dapat, the way we partnered with TSDA and aligned our curriculum, baka tingnan uli kung meron pa pong nangyayaring nauulit na subjects, lalo na kung nag-specialized subjects na yung bata. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Yusek. We are pressed for time. Kaya siguro pwede bang kahit one line lang po from everybody, yung personal advice nyo to educators and students. One line lang po. Okay. Yusek Aldaba, any advice?
Let's keep people at the center of all our fourth industrial revolution transformation plans, and that would be applicable to all the academe, the industry, as well as with the government.
Okay, thank you. Thank you po. Deputy Director Urdaneta, please.
I would like to reiterate my call to, of course, my alma mater, UST, to look into the advocacy po ng PQF, the Philippine Qualifications Framework, and also look into pursuing and offering TVET qualification in the institution. Salamat po.
Salamat po. Yusek UMALI, please.
Opo, marami pong salamat muli sa ating pinakamamahal na University of Santo Tomas at ang kanilang Alumni Association. Ang sasabihin ko lamang po ay sa mga bata at mga kolehiyong estudyante na nakikinig po ngayon, alam nyo mga anak, may katapusan din lahat ito. I-google nyo, i-research ninyo. Black Death Plague, Bubonic Plague, 1300 time, mga sakit na nanggaling sa daga, ang daming namatay, Spanish influenza, 1900, smallpox, lahat po yan kinaharap natin. Natapos din po, pati po ang pandemyang ito mga anak ay matapos. Maging matibay kayo mga anak, mag-aral mabuti, mahalin ang mga magulang at pamilya at maging responsableng Filipino. Salamat po.
Salamat po. Dr. Phoenix, please.
Well, I urge that our government make sure that we have connectivity for all and from all parts of the Philippines. That's one. That's really a sine qua non for us to move forward. To the students, you should really get digital literacy. You be digitally literate. In addition to really having the 3 R's under your belt, and look into life skills that are also quite needed, like decision making, problem solving, communication, community. These are all, and as I said, the most important, that you really form your character. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. Just to synthesize everything, we started off with the theme, disturbance, disruptions, and disorders brought about by Industry 4.0. And then our speakers told us about their policies, frameworks, and programs to respond to these disruptions. Eventually, they told us also about the problems that they met with regard to the implementation of these policies, frameworks, and programs. Finally, we were told about, we were given some advices about how we can go by in our studies, in our day-to-day life, to survive and also to prevail over 4.0, Industry 4.0. With this, we recognize that we at UST AAI and everybody here, our depth of gratitude to all of the speakers. To show this appreciation to all of you, we would like to award the certificates, the following certificates, and they read as, do we have it now? Okay. The certificate reads, the UST Alumni Association, in cooperation with the UST Graduate School Center for Continuing Professional Education and Development, awards the certificate of appreciation to Attorney TONISITO M.C. UMALI, Esquire, to ROSANNA A. URDANETA, to Felix P. Phoenix Jr., PhD, to Ramon Lopez, okay, for having shared their expertise and experiences in Webinar 2, Industry 4.0, Disruptions, Disturbances, and Disorders of the National Multisectoral Summit for Educational Transformation, an Academe, alumni, industry, and government collaboration, given this September 17, 2021, at the Royal Pontifical and Catholic University of Santo Tomas, España Boulevard, Manila, Philippines. Okay, now I'd like to invite everybody to turn on their cameras for our photo ops to memorialize this occasion. Please. Are we ready, Secretariat? Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you again to our speakers. Before we adjourn, I'd like to remind you, our great audience, about the following. We'll have webinars 3 and 4 this coming October, and your certificates will be sent to you after you have completed evaluation forms. So please fill them out. On behalf of the UST Alumni Association Incorporated and the UST Graduate School Center for Continuing Professional Education and Development, I would like to thank our guest speakers once again, our sponsors, and you, our amazing audience, for gracing this momentous occasion. And I think there is no better act fitted to close this remarkable webinar except by a prayer in a song. I now invite everybody to sing the UST hymn. Moderator, Dr. Batoon, signing off. Hasta la vista.